I'm following advice. I'm putting some crushed eggshells around these pepper plants. What I do is I save mine in a bucket in the refrigerator so that they don't develop an odor. And when I've collected a cookie sheet or two full, then I'll bake them in the oven on 295 for 25 minutes. And then I let them cool and I throw them in my Ninja and a little at a time, and I'll just chop them up till I get a good grain, as you can see. And then I just store them in mason jars. I have a gallon jar in the greenhouse, and this smaller jar I grab to bring out here for this little project with the peppers, but I've decided I'm going to do it around the tomatoes too. Even though they're not having any insect problems, that calcium will leach down into the ground eventually. Maybe not this year. I'm not real sure how long it takes for the calcium to leach, but now I did that in the fall. So I'm not worried about these plants getting balsam end rot or anything like that, but it'll help. It's not going to hurt them. Tomato plants are rocking, y'all. That windstorm, that may have tousled them around a little bit, but it didn't hurt them. They're happy. They're looking good. Got some good thick stalks going on. And no, I'm not pulling every single sucker. So you see that sucker there, I know you do. But I didn't want to pull every one of them, because you just never know. You may have a branch of leaves that get damaged later on, and you're still going to need some shade for your tomato. All right, eggshells around every pepper plant. Tomato plants has got eggshells. I decided to go ahead and do that because in the long run, even after this garden is long spent, and that's more nutrients there for the next go round. I have different plans for next year's garden. It won't be just like this. This was more of a learning experience, a beautifying experience, because I want to bring my mom out here into the garden. She's a bed patient. She cannot get up on her own, but I can sit her into her rollator and take her into the shower and that kind of thing, and I can bring her out here if the weather is not too hot or cold. But my dream for this year is to have a sitting area right there where that green pot is. That's why that's wider, with the beans trellising around to cast a shade, and let her and my father-in-law just sit and maybe drink a little bit of coffee while I tend to the garden in the mornings or in the late evenings when I'm picking tomatoes, whichever she prefers or he prefers. He likes to be outside all day. He'll sit on the porch all day long, but now she's not able, and she's never been an outside person as far as I know. I don't think I've explained the situation with her living here, but my mom didn't raise me. My dad raised me, and I missed a lot of my life with her. I did try to live with her when I was in 7th and 8th grade, and went to junior high in West Virginia where she was living. That's where she's from, and that's where my dad's from too, and my brother. I was born in Tennessee, in Knoxville, and I've lived here in Mississippi since I was real young. Dad's job transferred down here, and then when I was 5 or 6, him and Mom got a divorce, and she's never been a mentally strong person, and she just was not capable of raising my brother and I, so my dad did. And we'll get into more detail of that some other time. But I did try to live with her for those two schools year sessions. It did not work out, so I came back to my grandparents' house in Tennessee, who had a farm there. They came from West Virginia to Tennessee, and some of my family still lives there. And I didn't talk to my mom much. I mean, there was a lot of negative history, things I didn't know about, things I was told that was not as they were. You know how parents sometimes fight and they use the kids as pawns. Well, I was a nice little pawn most of my life. And that is not an old pitiful me story. I don't want you to think that at all. I turned out just fine. I'm good. But anyway, I felt like when Mom got sick 5 years ago, that God called me to bring her home to me. And that it would be a short period, a short season of us getting to catch up and make up for a little lost time. And she was really sick, and I didn't think she was going to live 72 hours, much less a month or two. I really didn't. I mean, I had no idea, but I quit my job as a nurse at a clinic here in town to take care of her and move her down here. So I went to Tennessee, where she was living at that time. 2 years prior, my brother had moved her there because she was alone in West Virginia. She had been living with her brother, and he passed away. And so she was in Tennessee for a couple years, and I went there to take care of her while she was in the hospital and to pack her things and settle all the affairs to get her moved down here once she was strong enough. So that process went on from end of December till March the 14th, which was 2014, I believe, was the date that I moved her here. And so I've had her ever since. And I prayed when I brought her here that God would give her 10 more years. I thought, of the character in the Bible that asked God for 10 years, and so I just did it. I asked God for 10 years. We've made it 5, and she's in much better shape now than she was when she came here. She was actually ambulatory for a few years, and then she fell, got tripped up in her robe tie and fell and broke her femur, and after that surgery, she went downhill. Now, the reason she was sick in the first place is because she had a huge abdominal mass that they said, some doctors said was cancerous, some said they didn't know, they couldn't biopsy it, it was too entangled in the vessels and arteries and things, so they couldn't remove it. They said they couldn't even get to it to biopsy it. So, that was a mess. Well, we, as she's been here, have changed diets for her and I especially. I eat ketogenic. I feed her as organically as possible. She is here. We've made up for a lot of lost time. I have found out some truths and negated some lies. It's a sad thing when you feel like your whole life was based on lies. But God's merciful, and God saw me through that, and He made me a better person. And my grandparents were always there. I had an aunt and uncle that were gracious enough to let me come stay with them and my grandparents in the summertime. And so they instilled a lot of Jesus in me. And then when I was 19, I married my husband. He was not a churchgoer at the time. And wasn't long after we got into church, he was called to preach. And so he did for 20-something years. And in small communities, if you're not aware, a lot of churches are family-oriented, and they only want their families. And they don't like it when you solicit in new crowds. They feel like they might lose control or something like that. And I don't mean to be negating anybody at all. I'm just telling you our story as to why we do not minister at this moment anymore. And of course, I'm here 24/7. I can't leave to go to church. We have a home church. I love our church. We have a pastor. He's awesome. We do not pastor at this moment. I will minister to anybody I feel has a need. If I see somebody struggling and God puts it in my spirit to help in some way, I'll do that. If I can minister in that way or just be an ear, I do that. And I talk to God daily. God is in this garden. I can tell y'all that. Because Before I ventured into this, I couldn't even keep a house plant alive, much less do what I'm doing. So that just shows you where God is merciful, graceful. His mercies are new every single day. And for any of you that don't believe that, you really need a reality check. And let me tell you, God will humble you to that point that you will get that reality check if you're not careful. I've been there a few times. I can tell you some things that'll break your heart. And I'm not talking about just about me. I'm talking about things that's happened within my immediate family with my daughters and their lives and things that they've went through and things that we've went through because of what they've went through. But I'm not here to talk about all that at this time. I'm just telling you a little bit about us and why the garden is important to me, as far as my mom being able to come out here and sit. And then next year the garden's going to be a whole different thing. It'll be tilled under. I'm going to put some other raised beds around for some things, and then I intend to plant all of this area in purple whole peas and tomatoes and some more peppers. I love tomatoes and peppers, but I'll rotate things and I'm going to do it different. I mean, as you can tell, it looks like a whole lot of wasted space. It's not wasted for now. It is a lot of walkway. It could have been planted up in food. I couldn't have handled that. As a newbie, as a beginner, as learning, I don't think I could, and harvesting, I don't think I could do it all on that kind of a scale for the first year. I am a planner. I'm a researcher. I do fly by the seat of my pants on some things, but for the most part, I am a researcher. And I spend a lot of time studying. And that is how I came to the point of getting Mom to where she is. And she's, other than just being in the bed and not strong enough to hold her own weight, and a lot of that's fear. She is so fearful of falling again that she just will not do what she needs to do. We've had physical therapists out here, and we've had her walking on the rollator and the walker, but once they discontinue service, she shuts down on me. And if you know anything about elderly and their dignity, I'm not going to rob her of that. I'm not going to yell at her and scream at her to get her tail up and walk down that hall. I'm just not doing that to her. If she wants to lay in that bed most of her life, the days she has left, okay. But if she feels like she wants to get up and come out to this garden, okay. If she wants me to get her up, give her a shower every week, just like we do, okay. I just believe in giving her and my father-in-law or any elderly person their dignity. It is their life. She's 80 years old. He's 79. They deserve a say-so in what happens to them. As long as they're in their cognitive right mind, yeah, give them their dignity. Don't strip it from them. I know caretaking is hard. Believe me, I know it. I've been doing it for 5 years here at home. Been doing it since 92 as a nurse. But the dream is to let her make the choice to come out here if she wants to. And I want it to be beautiful when she does. So, there was that. And I'm sorry for ranting, getting preachy. That's just in me. Y'all didn't know that, did you? I don't think I've ever really divulged that. You'll learn more and more as we go along. I'm not one to spill the beans all at one time. I like to reserve back things, and then when the conversation opens that door, talk about it. I will. I'll talk about it to anybody that asks, or if the door opens, but I don't like to just put my story out there. Because I feel like somebody's like, oh, that's so sad. Oh, that's so pitiful. No, it's not. It made me who I am. And the things that I've went through in my life, I am a very strong individual. And I know that. And I know it is only because of God's grace and mercy.